In 1926, a new type of metro train was introduced in Berlin, the BVG Type C, which can boast an interesting history and many variations, which I aim to discuss in this video. The C1 was introduced as the next generation of Großprofil U-Bahn trains in Berlin. It differs from the preceding B series by being 18 meters in length, 5 meters longer than before. These trains were built especially for the Nord-Südbahn, now U6. These trains can utilize the 80-meter platform lengths of this line more efficiently than the Type B. The first prototypes were delivered towards the end of 1926, built by Orenstein and Koppel. They were 4-car-long trains with 2 third-class motor coaches, 1 second and 1 third-class trailer cars. However, by the time of entry into service, second-class cars have been abolished and turned into smoking cars painted red, as seen on the preserved wagon number 563. Interestingly, these cars featured different roof styles. Some cars had curved barrel roofs, while others had roofs which featured skylight windows at the top. The third prototype had all cars with skylight windows at the top, as per series production vehicles. The fourth prototype is unique as it had 4 doors per side to allow for faster passenger exchange rates, but sacrificing seating. The fifth and sixth prototype trains returned to the barrel roof, and they featured a division between second and third class within one carriage. This was later converted to smoking and non-smoking compartments. The electrical equipment of these trains is not significantly different from previous generations of trains, however they do feature novel pneumatic doors, which close automatically along with warning lamps for the doors. A variety of different seating arrangements were trialed on these prototype vehicles. For example, Beiwagen 253 featured transverse seating in a 2+2 formation. After testing, this was considered too cramped and it was retired in favor of a 2+1 arrangement. The C1 trains would see limited use and service until 1940, when they were put into full-time use. For the new Line D, now U8, and Line E, now U5, 144 new units of a C2 type were ordered. All cars were delivered as multiple units of 2 cars each, with all cars powered, abandoning the old system of powered and trailer cars. All cars had skylight roofs and a longitudinal seating arrangement. Driver cab walls in cars that are in the middle of a consist can be folded away to make additional standing space. A semi-automatic Scharfenberg coupler is fitted to these trains. A more modern cam-operated control system is used in these vehicles. Type C2 cars entered service in January 1930. Currently, a 2-car Type C2 train is preserved and operational, which has made several museum runs on the Berlin U-Bahn. These cars are numbered 563 and 588. Car 1352 is preserved in the German Museum of Technology, and the fourth car was preserved up until 2021 as a backup car, number 1368, but was later stripped of useful parts and scrapped due to weathering as a result of unprotected storage outside. The C3, despite looking similar to previous C trains, had significant technical differences. A new electric contactor control system and an electrodynamic rheostatic brake system were fitted onto these vehicles. Unlike the C2, all bogies in a car were motorized, and thus the power output was reduced from 100 kilowatts to 70 kilowatts per motor. These new trains entered service in late 1930. Unfortunately, technical problems with these vehicles arose as early as 1932. The new control and brake systems proved to be unreliable. This would culminate in an incident at Alexanderplatz where a C3 train nearly collided with another train due to complete brake failure. Consequently, all C3 trains were taken out of service while investigations were carried out to fix these vehicles. In 1938, A new AEG control system was installed onto all C3 type trains. The braking system was converted to the same setup as on the C2 trains. Starting in autumn 1939, all trains began to be put back in service. Only two C3 vehicles remain in Berlin, 524 and 544, which were converted into trailer cars for use with C2 trains. These vehicles would last until 1970, and the other until 1975 respectively. They would both be scrapped. No C3 trains remain until this day. The Type C4 was originally the seventh C1 prototype. It differed from the rest by having an aluminum body, which allowed for a 12% weight reduction. It was classified as C1 until 1937. Triebzug 111 and 112, along with Beiwagen 268, had a frame made from mild steel and the body itself made from aluminum. These trains featured barrel-style roofs with a variety of types of ventilators. The motor cars had Flettner rotor ventilators, while the trailer car had Flettner cell ventilators. In 1937, it was fitted with an AEG multiple unit control system and a rheostatic brake to test equipment that would be subsequently used on the C3. Due to it being significantly different to the C1 after these modifications, it was given the C4 designation. In May 1943, it was damaged in a collision in Friedrichsfelde depot and taken to Seestrasse for repair. The trailer car was destroyed in an air raid during 1944. The remaining motor cars stayed in Berlin and were used as a testbed for new control system of a Type D. In 1956, these cars were adapted to be technically similar and compatible with existing C2 types, which required replacing many components. They received new numbers 1394 and 1396. 1396 was retired in 1971, while the car 1394 endured until 1975. There was a plan to preserve these vehicles at the Brits depot, but unfortunately this did not happen. Many units of the C-type were destroyed as a result of air raids in Berlin during the Second World War. In the latter half of 1945, 150 C-type trains began to be sent to Moscow as part of war reparations. Only 44 C2 type, 2 C3 type, and 2 C4 type trains remained in Berlin after this. This is where the story of these trains splits between two cities. Beginning in 1946, the remaining C-type trains began to be refurbished in Seestrasse depot. All Type C trains were moved there before the East-West Berlin division, and therefore all of these trains now belonged to West Berlin. In 1954, the brake systems began to be replaced with block brakes. These trains were also equipped with manual windshield wipers. Due to the vehicles that were given away after the reparations, leaving many gaps in the numbering of these trains, all vehicles were given new numbers. They were given numbers in the 1300s, with only even numbers used due to lack of trailer cars. The distinction between C2 and C4 type trains became obsolete due to the trains being modified to be the same, meaning from then on, all trains were simply designated Type C. Due to increasing amounts of Type D trains, all C vehicles were moved from use on lines U6 and U7 to line U8. Since 1966, these trains began to operate exclusively on U8. After the beginning of entry of DL cars into service in the beginning of 1970, all C-type trains began to be retired. The last run of the Type C was on April 30th, 1975. This marked the end of pre-war trains and driver and conductor operations on the network. 15 cars were kept as reserve in various locations around West Berlin. In 1977, this was reduced to 11 vehicles. The vehicles began to be scrapped, and only 4 were left by the time the Berlin Wall fell. In 1990, one of the cars had a refurbishment and was sent to Alexanderplatz in East Berlin to commemorate 60 years of Line E, now U5. In 1992, all Type C vehicles were transferred to Friedrichsfelde Depot. A two-car operational museum train was created and was made to be in its original condition. This vehicle was unveiled on December 21st, 2008, on the 78th anniversary of Line E being opened. As for the remaining two cars, one was given to the German Museum of Technology and the other used as a spare parts donor before being scrapped. Due to the increase in the size of Moscow metro network and lack of shipments of new trains from Metro Wagonmash, it was decided that trains would be taken from Berlin in form of reparations to fill the gap in missing rolling stock. The Moscow Metro Type A and B trains were also based on the Berlin Type C, and therefore the Type C was deemed the most suitable for use in Moscow. A special temporary track was constructed connecting the Friedrichsfelde depot to the mainline railway, and the C trains were hauled by steam locomotive all the way to Radviliškis station in Lithuania, where they were then mounted onto flat cars and then transported to Moscow. In total, 24 C1, 69 C2, and 30 C3 trains arrived into Moscow. They were delivered to the Sokol depot of Line 2. These trains underwent a significant amount of modifications to make them compatible with the Moscow Metro. Bogies and axles were widened to fit the 1,520mm Russian gauge. All cars were raised by 20 centimeters so that they would match Moscow platform heights, and the trains were given a general repair. They were all renumbered and given the designation Type V, which stands for Voyenny, which means wartime. The assimilation of these trains into the Moscow Metro was very difficult due to the lack of technical documentation, which had to be made by the workers of the Moscow Metro. The Type C1 trains got the designation V1. The Type C2 was named V2, and C3 was named V3. Due to water damage and incompatibility with other V trains, on all V1 trains the motors were taken off and they became unpowered trailer cars. V1 trains with a driver's cab got numbers 151 to 162. Cars without a driver's cab received numbers 1151 to 1162. Type V2 trains got numbers from 170 to 238, and finally the V3 received numbers from 250 to 276. The interiors of all cars received radical changes. The ability to fold away cabs that were not in use was removed. Plush seats were replaced with leather, and the interior walls received Lincrusta wallpapers, popular on other Soviet metro trains. After modifications, the doors became fully automatically operated. V1 cars were intended to be mixed into consists of V2 and V3 trains, with a configuration of 5 V2 coaches and a V1 somewhere in the middle, or 4 V3 coaches with 2 V1s in the middle. V2 and V3 trains were incompatible and therefore never operated together in a consist. All vehicles were assigned to the Severnet depot and entered service in 1947. At first, they were used on lines 1 and 2. The use of unpowered middle cars proved to be inefficient as the trains could not accelerate optimally, and thus all V1 type cars received DK140A trolleybus motors with a power output of 80 kilowatts each. All V1 cars without a cab received one, and headlights and taillights were installed as well. After the conversion, the cars received numbers in the range from 146 to 169 and given the classification V4. After 5 to 6 years of use, nearly one-third of V-type trains fell out of service due to a lack of spare parts. In 1958, all V3 and 8 V2 trains were taken out of service. The same year, the remaining trains were repainted as a more Soviet blue-green livery. All trains were moved to Depot Izmailova and used on what is now Line 4 until 1966, when they were all retired. 6 V-type trains were transported to Leningrad, where they underwent a series of modifications to turn them into maintenance cars. Unit 153 was modified and turned into a rail flaw detection car. Another car, number 156, was converted into a vacuum cleaner car. 2 cars were converted to battery electric locomotives in Moscow and received designation E1 and E2. The same thing was done to another 2 cars in St. Petersburg, where they received the designation ED1 and ED2. Another car exists in Tbilisi, which is used as a track geometry car. To this day, only 4 V cars remain, all of them V4 cars. Car 147 in Kiev in an abandoned state, which is a rail flaw detection car. Another car is 156 in St. Petersburg, which used to be a battery electric locomotive, but was converted back into a normal V car and is now used as a museum vehicle on static display. Car number 158 can be found in Moscow. One of a 4-door V trains is being refurbished to use in the under construction Moscow Transport Museum. The Type C can boast an interesting and long history, having gone way beyond its home in Berlin. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I did my best to represent the history and information about the Type C as accurately as possible. If I made mistakes, please let me know. Thank you for watching.